A little whiles back, I built these workshop cabinets, and at the time, I didn't really know what kind of tools were going to live here, nor did I know what kind of functionality that I might need in the future. And that's why when I was designing this at the time, I designed it to be fully modular and fully customizable. And of course, I'm really glad that I did that, because today's project involves modifying one of those cabinets to give my drill press a more permanent home. So this is my Bosch PBD-40 drill press, a very popular little drill press, really great for beginners and more advanced users alike. Has some fantastic features like variable speeds, laser guided sight, very light, very portable, highly recommended. So the goal of this particular project is to make this particular drill press more permanent into the cabinets. I want to address a couple of pain points, especially with the base plate and the wheel mechanism for the up and down motion. And to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to swap out this modular cabinet with that modular cabinet. So this is two halves and this is a full cabinet here. So what I'm going to do is going to move these two to here and then take that module out, and then I'm going to build the drill press into that particular cabinet. So the first step is to get ourselves organized and begin the process of moving the two cabinets. I have a significant number of these coasters or discs from a previous project. I've been using them for the membership tokens, but I've got so many of them that I've come up with an idea on how to use them for this project. I'll let you use your own imagination on how I'm going to potentially use these coasters in the project. Removing the tops is pretty simple, it's just a few screws holding them down. If you're interested in learning about how I built these cabinets, then check out this video that covers the process in more detail. There's just a few screws that hold the modules together, but once they're removed, the cabinets can be extracted pretty easily. The beauty of this system really is its ability to be customized. Being able to rearrange and change or build new functionality into these cabinets without having to make any big modifications is exactly why I made them in this way. With the cabinets now relocated, we can work on the actual drill press now, and the first job is to remove the base plate. It's just held in with a simple grub screw, and an Allen key is all that's needed to remove it. I'm going to mount the stand underneath the top by using the 4 anchor points located in each corner of the base. I'll also mark out where the post is and the center hole designating the point where the drill bit would be touching the base. I ended up moving this a little higher just to give a little more clearance at the front, which you'll see in the next shot. I got a little ahead of myself here drilling out the mounting holes, and I forgot that I need to put in a countersink first to allow for the bolt head. It's a pretty simple fix. I just drilled out a hole in a bit of scrap MDF and then I clamped it over the hole and used it as a guide for the forcer bit, and this works just fine. I'm marking out where the holes need to be cut for the center post. I need to allow for a bit of extra room since there is a slight flange at the base that needs to be accounted for. Now there are lots of ways to cut a hole, but by far my preferred method is to cut out a template on the laser and then use a pattern bit over at the router table. I do own some hole saws, but to be frank, the last time I used one, I sprained my wrist quite badly when the saw caught on the wood and twisted the drill in my hand. Now granted, I was breaking all sorts of rules regarding safety and common sense, and at the time this was very much my wake-up call. It's another important reminder to respect your tools and use common sense. Don't learn the hard way like I did. Okay, so I've rough cut the circle here using a jigsaw. I haven't cleaned it up yet with the template, but I will shortly. But something that I've forgotten to account for, or just realized I need to account for as I was just doing a quick dry fit, is the grub screw that will clamp the post or pole in place. So obviously, as you can see, there's no room for me to maneuver any sort of Allen key in there. So I'm gonna have to add probably some sort of relief in here or make this a little bit larger. I haven't quite worked out how or what it's going to look like, but in the end I'll also then probably make some sort of cover just to cover this up, obviously to clean it, make it look a bit prettier. So probably just some sort of cutout here is all we're going to need, so I'll make sure I do that now. So I was then back to the laser to cut out a new template, which I did, then finally onto the router to clean up. I've recently discovered a new brand of double-sided tape. The old tape that I previously used was good, but when it came to remove it from the workpiece, it was often very difficult and left bits of tape glue that needed to be cleaned off. On a recent shopping trip in Melbourne, I discovered this tape from Diaso, and it's so much better. It has a really strong bond, but better yet is that it will peel off really easily from your workpiece. It only cost a few bucks, so I strongly recommend if you're after some good double-sided tape, then give this one a try. Now earlier you'll recall I mentioned that I had an idea to use up some of those disc coasters that were left over from my dust collection upgrade. I figured that these would make decent sacrificial inserts and allow me to use up some of these since they are taking up a fair bit of space. Now ideally I know that square ones would probably be better, but I'm confident enough that these will be okay with the typical type of usage I'll be doing. So after cutting out the inner hole using the same technique as we did for the drill post, I now need to cut out a rebate for the insert to sit on. The easiest way I found to do this is to again use a template along with a pattern bit on the palm router and set it to the height of the insert. It's for cuts like this that having a laser in the shop is really handy. Now at this point I'm going to pivot and work on some drawers that I want to add to this cabinet module. I'm going to make two drawers here, one that's skinnier for miscellaneous drill bits and another larger, deeper drawer for other drill press accessories. Now there are lots of ways you can build drawers, and I've covered a few different ways to do it in the past in different videos. But the way I'm doing it here is definitely my preferred way, which is to cut down all the sides of the drawers first. Then I switch out to my dado stack and cut rebates in the front and back panels of the drawers, as well as the grooves to accept the bottom panel. And of course lastly, I cut out the bottom panels. While this isn't the least complicated way to make drawers, it is by far in my opinion the easiest when it comes to assembly. If it's done right, it's incredibly quick and easy to assemble, will self-align due to the rebates, and no tricky clamping is really required. Now it's also worth mentioning before I get a bunch of comments that yes, I did put some glue in the slots for the bottom panel. This is all MDF, it's the material I prefer to make drawers out of, and it's not going to move around, expand or shrink, so it's perfectly fine to glue that bottom panel. Now of course if you are making this out of any other type of wood, then of course allow for some expansion and contraction. And there we have it, a nice square drawer ready for the cabinet. Now it took a while, but I can finally move on to finishing the top. These 300mm T-track bars I ordered off eBay will allow me to slide on some clamping as well as the fence. but before I can attach them, we'll need to route out a recess for them. To route out the track, I am, you guessed it, going to use a laser cut template. The key here is to take light passes, don't try and route it too much in one go, and just go slowly. And the net result is a perfect fit. Now your eyes aren't deceiving you. Yes, this is one of those rare occasions that the hand tools come out, and yes, I do own some chisels. Now granted, I only own 3 chisels, but nevertheless I do own some. As the router can't make square corners for the T-track, we need to square them off, and a chisel is the easiest way to do this. Off camera, I fixed these into the top with a couple screws. Pivoting back to the cabinet, it's time to install the drawer slides. Having the cabinet out like this means I can tilt it on its side, making this job much easier. A couple of spacers help to keep the drawer slides level and parallel with the top, and like all the other drawers in my shop, I'm going to have these inset to the cabinet. A scrap piece of wood representing the thickness of the drawer face helps to offset the drawer slide by the right amount. I repeat this process for all 4 drawer slides. Attaching the runners to the drawers is a pretty simple process as well. For the top drawer, I put it on a flat surface and I line up the runner to be flush with the front of the drawer and then just screw it in. For the bottom drawer, however, I mounted the runner a little higher up and just used a few spacer blocks to do that. For deeper drawers, I tend to prefer the slides to sit towards the middle or at least off the bottom. It's just a personal preference, I don't know if there's any real world difference, but it's just what I do. Rightio, so we've put our drawers in and for all purposes, they work just fine. The top one, beautiful. The bottom one, nice and smooth. Now, the only thing with the bottom one though is that I've kind of cut the amount of gap I've left for the bottom quite fine. I haven't really accounted for or left enough gap here. So while it's opening without any impediment here, as soon as I put some weight in it, I dare say it's gonna rub just like that. So we do need to fix that. Now there's a couple of ways to fix that. The obvious one is, well, let's just cut all the way around a little bit off the bottom. There's not a lot of meat underneath here because obviously the drawer bottom sits in here, so I'd prefer not to do that, to, you know, leave some of its strength. The obvious option is that we've got plenty of gap up here, that we just raise the drawer up and then reattach the drawer rails in there. And that leads me to a segue about something I've been thinking about for a while. So you may remember in my previous video, I said this particular pipe or shop vac. And in fact, it's one of the reasons why I'm seriously considering potentially getting my own 3D printer. Now, what I can tell you is about 30 seconds after saying that, posting it, I went ahead and bought a 3D printer. I've been talking about buying a 3D printer to myself for a really long time, and I finally talked myself into it because Bamboo was having a bit of a sale. So I thought, what better time to actually go ahead and get a 3D printer? And already I'm putting it to work. And specifically, one of the first things that I developed are these shims. So previously you'll have seen me reach down here for some playing cards, shims, okay? And I use these all the time when it comes to sizing up drawers, especially the drawer faces and getting the right reveal. And there's nothing wrong with using playing cards, they work just fine. However, I've been wanting some proper shims for a while, and the 3D printer has given me a great opportunity to create my own shims. So I've developed and printed a whole bunch of shims. This is 1mm. I also made some 1.5s, some 2mm, 3, 4, 5mm shims, and I think I'm going to use these a lot in the shop for, you know, these type of projects where I need to shim an object or create the right reveal in a drawer. So like drawers like this, obviously, and I think these will make it a lot easier to do. So let me know in the comments if this is something you'd be interested in, you know, even buying, you know. I've been contemplating doing something like that for a long time, but yeah, basic shims, let me know if that's something you'd be interested in. Okay, right, so back to fixing the bottom drawer, and I'm going to use my 2mm shims to lift it off the base. Once the drawer is sitting on the shims, we can pull out the drawer slide slightly to reveal the first screw hole locations, and then drive some screws in to secure. We repeat this, pulling out the drawer, making sure it's sitting on the shims and fixed in place. The last screw we'll need to remove the drawer to install, but this is a fast and easy way to shim up our drawer. Ah, much better. Got good clearance and exactly 2mm. So, happy with that. For the drawer fronts themselves, I'm using some leftover pine I have from the arcade project build. It's just about the right size, but we'll need to obviously trim it. I'll start from the bottom and cut a panel to size, sneaking up on the right fit, and use my 1mm shims to get the desired reveal. To attach the drawer fronts, I'm just going to use this template that I have left over from some of my other drawer builds and drill out where the handles will go. I'll attach the handles using some screws from behind and then drive in a couple extra screws on each of the sides just to make sure that the drawer front is firmly attached. So the same goes for the top. We cut the panel to size, shim it up, and then attach from the inside of the drawer. Now, drawers aren't generally the most exciting thing to build, but there is a great sense of satisfaction when you get this kind of fit. We are very much on the home straight now, so it's time to put the cabinet back in its place and reattach the top. I'll put a couple screws that attach to the neighbouring cabinet just to make sure that this isn't going to move. Some screws go into the top to really secure this to the cabinet, and then it's finally time to put the drill press into its new home. Okay, well, we're well on our way now. I'd say we're in the closing stages of this project. So I've put the drill press into the bench, as you can see. Very happy with my T-track here, okay. The drawers, can't wait to populate that with all sorts of stuff. So those have come out really nicely. But the next thing that I want to address is a couple pain points that I have with this drill press, specifically the first one being this wheel. Now, traditionally, I guess most drill presses historically have kind of had these, I don't know, cantilever, I don't even know what these are called. Someone in the comments can tell me what that kind of handle is called. The Bosch uses obviously a wheel, and that's fine for a lot of things. However, sometimes when you kind of need to make more than a half rotation, or you're holding something and you've got one hand, you know, trying to make a rotation here, you need two hands. So one thing that I want to do is add some handles here. And I've been on the internet, as they say, and I've found a 3D printed, I guess, kit. I made some slight modifications to it, sort of to my liking. But other than that, it's something that I'll link to because I think it's important to give credit to the original authors on it. But I'll link to that, and you can, if you've got the same drill press, then, you know, hit a friend up who has a 3D printer, or if you've got one yourself, you'll be able to do it. So let's go ahead and install this. Right, so we just installed those handles. Now the next accessory I've installed, or I actually 3D printed, is this pillar dust support. So I've got this flexible tube hose. We've got some miscellaneous adapters that we've printed, and hopefully the idea is that I'm going to be able to have some dust collection right up close to whatever it is that I'm drilling. So I've got my boom arm overhead dust collection, and hopefully this will allow me just to sort of hook this in here. I might have to make a slight adjustment to this so it fits this particular fitting, or I might make an adapter, probably end up making an adapter instead. But that should go in there, and that should mean while I'm drilling, I should have dust collection. So there we have it, the upgrade for the Bosch PBD-40 drill press into my workbench cabinets. Now it's not 100% complete, I still need to add the fence here, but there's nothing going to be fancy for that. It's just going to be a right angle piece of aluminium, so I want to keep that nice and simple. And the other thing that I want to do is obviously customize the drill press drawers with some custom fit trays, etc., to keep all the drill bits in. Now, of course, there are pros and cons to doing a project like this, especially with this specific drill press. And the number one being is that it's no longer portable. So one of the big draw cards of the Bosch PBD-40 is that it's very portable. You can put it away, you can bring it out, you can move it to a workpiece if you really had to. But to be brutally honest with you, in the year and a half I've owned this particular drill press, I have never ever moved it from the bench that it's sitting on. So for me, portability is not important. In fact, it's not even a consideration at all. But certainly if you still want to have the option of moving yours, then don't build it into your workbench. But the pros are fairly obvious. You know, we've got a lot more bench space now to work with. I don't have to mount riser blocks in order to lift up the workpiece off the bench. We've now got some zero clearance, which is really good, and it's easily replaceable. And we've got 1,000 of the inserts that we can use. We now have some dust collection, which is really handy because obviously one of the things that I'm constantly doing is sort of holding a vacuum in a strategic spot in order to be able to extract all of the dust that comes off the drill press. And of course, my number one pet hate, which was the handle. So now we have a fully adjustable pivoting handle, which allows me in one motion to be able to traverse the whole length of the height of the drill press. So making it much more usable now. So thanks for watching, and before I go, I just want to do a quick shout out to Dan at Riverside Woodworks. Dan is the latest channel member to the Barber's Paddock. Huge shout out to him. Thank you so much for becoming a member. Go and check out Dan's YouTube channel. He's a content creator and maker in his own right. Wonderful maker. Has some great stuff on his channel. So go ahead and check out his YouTube channel. Like and subscribe and all that kind of stuff. Show him some love as well. So thanks very much, Dan. So until next time, thanks for watching.